The House will come to order. Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1982. The Chief Clerk will report the bill.
House File number 1982, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to education, eliminating deadlines for active transportation safety training.
There are no amendments at the desk. The Chief Clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 1982.
Third reading. I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Hennepin, Representative Greene.
Thank you so much, Chair. Appreciate that. I'm here to present House File 1982. I want to give a shout out to my freshman colleague across the aisle, Representative Wayne Johnson, who signed onto this bill with me. So, members, this is a bill. It's a simple modification to an important act of transportation safety training that school districts are required to provide for all students. This went into effect in August of 2023. Former Representative Frank Hornstein was the original author. So I want to talk just for a quick second about that active transportation safety training. It includes two things. One is pedestrian safety training, teaches how to properly cross a road for kindergartners through third graders. And then in addition, for fourth and eighth graders, we have the addition of bicycle safety, including teaching the use and proper fit of helmets. I thought you would enjoy that as Representative Myers here. No, okay. Anyway, so this training is a good thing. It's a good thing for Minnesota. It keeps 1 million Minnesota students safe. It develops awareness habits that is needed to navigate roads, traffic safety, reduces their risk of injury, whether they're walking or riding a bike. So here's what this bill is about. In current statute, the deadline for implementation is just a bit tight. It sits close to the start of the school year, which unintentionally makes it logistically challenging to implement during the often hectic and already burdened first few weeks of school. So school districts came and asked the legislature for more flexibility, and that's what this bill delivers. House File 1982 removes the deadline, giving districts the ability to implement thoughtful safety instruction in a way that works best for their students and staff, while keeping the annual required training intact. Members, I would encourage a green vote.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Johnson W.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to recognize and thank Representative Greene for bringing this forward. This is one of those bills that's working together in a bipartisan manner. We make life a little bit easier for schools because we all know as parents how hectic it can be at the beginning of the year, finding out where your kids are going and all those challenges. So it's the same thing with the schools. If we can make it a little bit easier for them, this is something we can do. Again, this does not remove any training, does not reduce any safety, just gives them a little extra time to complete this. So thank you again, Representative Greene. Members, I encourage you to vote green. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Greene, for your willingness to work with schools on this. Having this flexibility and time is good, so I encourage a green vote for the bill. And I also appreciate any kind of mandate relief we can give to our schools is a good thing. This is a good bill, so thank you.
I recognize the member from Morrison, Representative Creeshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Representative Greene, thank you for your bill. Members, this is a good bill. You should vote green on this. Listening to the schools and offering that support and flexibility is incredibly important, and I'm glad to see this bill come forward, and I look forward to it going forward. So thank you for the bill.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Bakeberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Greene. This is a really good bill because every October, school districts across the state do something called Walk Bike to School. So this would be a very logical connection to be able to do this training in unison when the schools are actually doing Walk Bike to School. So excellent bill. Thank you, Representative Greene, for bringing this. And then it does relieve one of the pieces at the start of the year that we have to do. So just a very common sense, logical bill and this is what can happen when we work with the boots on the ground that are actually serving our kids on a day-to-day basis. So thank you. Fantastic bill. I encourage a green vote.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Hennepin, Representative Greene.
Thank you so much, Speaker. Thank you for all those kind words. Vote green.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the chief clerk will call the roll. He'll take the roll, not call it. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Hussein. McDonald.
McDonald, yes.
McDonald votes aye. Hussein.
Hussein, aye.
Hussein votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 133 yeas and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. There is a bill at the desk. The chief clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2023, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to education, requiring overdose prevention education in a substance use model policy, the first engrossment.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House File 2023 was brought to me by a group of incredibly enterprising high schoolers. Now, if only I was as enterprising and educated as the kids that I worked with on this bill, I would be much better off in my life today. But House File 2023 adds overdose recognition, prevention, and response to the Department of Education's model policy that they must address for schools. And this is really important considering the amount of substance abuse and in particular overdose deaths our state and our country has seen. It's grim and it's only increasing. And this is a problem a lot of people don't see. When people suffer with addiction, they do things in secret. They hide what they're doing, and sometimes you just never know until you go and are struck by it one day. And a lot of families around the state struggle with this. And as we see this increase, particularly with all the drugs coming into our country, we need to make sure that high schoolers know how to recognize the behavior and respond to it. In particular, something as simple as the use of Narcan. And I know almost everyone here has a family member or themselves who has suffered with addiction, which leads to these problems. And by educating our students, we can make sure that if they're unfortunate enough to come across a situation, they are equipped and prepared to potentially save a life. And this adds to the things that the model policy from the department must address. So this is not another requirement on schools. We've had many mandates over the last few years put on our schools, and it's put them in a bad way. This is not another mandate on schools. This is a mandate on the department, and the schools will utilize this tool given to them by the department to ensure that people can recognize and address overdoses if they're unfortunate enough to come across it in their lives. So members, I believe this bill will have solid bipartisan support. It does in its authorship, and I would encourage members' support of House File 2023.
There are no amendments at the desk. The chief clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 2023.
Third reading. Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a good bill. This is a bill supported by the Minnesota Youth Council, and it will result in Minnesota's students and future generations being happier citizens. So I encourage you to all vote green. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from, that's hard to read, Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to stand to support House File 2023. Thank you, Representative West, for bringing this forward. And the best part about this bill is it was pushed by students. It was carried and written and thought of, and even students back in my district were really following this thing closely today. I hope they're watching us online about how we listen to you, we care about you. The best part about this, too, is the kids are really getting this horrible disease and this poison that is coming across so many of our communities right now. This is a really, really big deal. They want to know more about overdosing. What does that mean? What is it doing to our bodies? How dangerous is this if we're out trying to experiment with something? The kids are getting it. This is a great bill. We're making a difference in the world of substance use disorder members, and I can't thank the students enough, Representative West and other supporters for this enough. We are making a difference in the world of deaths and the substance use disorder that are causing great, great harm. So thank you, students. Let's keep on chugging away. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion to the bill? I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2024, 87,000 Americans died due to an overdose. So members, let's see if we can do something about that with the green vote.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Hussein.
Hussein, aye.
Hussein votes aye. McDonald.
Yep, you're on. It's yes.
McDonald.
Yes. Yay.
Again.
He's there. It's on speaker. Can you say it louder? Yes.
McDonald, yes.
McDonald votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 133 yeas and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 2847. The Chief Clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2847, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to commerce, modifying various statutory forms pertaining to garnishments, the second engrossment.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Dakota, Representative Reyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, we passed the Debt Fairness Act, which included provisions that modernized and improved Minnesota's bank and wage garnishment processes. Because processes changed, the required forms also needed to change. And we've all dealt with hard-to-understand forms, so we know how annoying they are. And poorly designed forms can also have serious consequences if people make mistakes on them when stakes are high. For example, when they're dealing with financial problems that lead to garnishment. So while we made the necessary content changes, we also took the opportunity to improve the usability by incorporating principles of plain language in the revision process. Senate File 2847 brings forward the results of this work. As required, the Attorney General's office led a process with stakeholders from across the garnishment process. The courts, attorneys, banks, employers, consumers, advocacy groups. The core team included a specialist in plain language. 3 types of content changes were needed: updating exemptions, updating definitions, and incorporating new wage garnishment tiers. Once this was done, plain language revisions were made with consideration to simplified language and clearer layout and organization. Finally, the subject matter expert signed off on the forms, confirming the content on the form, that the forms was unchanged, and a copy of this letter is coming around now. I'm hopeful that the changes like these will make a stressful situation for consumers a little easier. Members, I ask for your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There are no amendments at the desk. The Chief Clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 2847.
Third reading. Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Reyer, thanks for bringing the bill. It's an important, not exciting bill, but it's necessary. The changes in forms have to happen every so often, and this is a good example, and this will be, this is what we need to do today. Thanks.
Any further discussion? I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Dakota, Representative Reyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Chair Scott, for your comments, because I think we should be looking at plain language across our enterprise. But for now, please vote green.
Any further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the Chief Clerk will take the roll. The Chief Clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Hussein.
There you go.
Hussein, aye.
Hussein votes aye. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 133 yeas and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The last bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 3196. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 3196. Number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to corrections appropriating money for deficiencies in the budget of the Department of Corrections.
I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, this is the Department of Corrections operating deficiency request. The DOC is requesting $9.1 million from the state's general fund, as well as approval to reallocate approximately $10 million in previously appropriated funds to address the budget shortfall for fiscal year 2025. The good news is that the DOC has made significant progress in addressing its staffing challenges, increasing its staffing levels to 99% from just 76% in 2020. The combination of these staffing improvements and the rising costs associated with retaining staff has created this funding shortfall. Without the requested funds, the DOC will face severe operational challenges, potentially jeopardizing their ability to meet financial obligations by June of 2025. And the bill will ensure the sustained, safe, and efficient operation of Minnesota's prisons and the continuance of services that are crucial to the rehabilitation of incarcerated individuals. I want to thank my co-chair, Co-Chair Chair Novotny, and also the co-chairs of the Ways Committee for recognizing the urgency of this need. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chair Moller, for bringing that forward. Contrary to what Representative Koznick suggests, I will not make a shake it off reference in this, is that we needed to take the budget. If you look, and I recommend the members, when you have a chance, look at the Bill 3006 and look at the things that the DOC was able to do and make some really hard decisions and make some cuts to come up with the money that they needed. And I appreciate them doing that. And thank you for bringing the bill forward. I recommend a green vote.
Any further discussion to the bill? I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick comment. Today, I traveled to a funeral up in Little Falls. During that trip out of town in Stillwater, where I live, I drove past the Bayport Correctional Facility, known as Stillwater. It's actually in Bayport. On the way home from Little Falls, I took an alternate route on 10 due to the traffic that was showing up on my phone, and drove past the St. Cloud Correctional Facility. I will note that both of these facilities are now over 100 years old. But because I have two correctional facilities in the district I represent, I've spent a lot of time speaking with correctional officers, and just want to note how crucial the passage of this bill is for their teams and for those facilities. So I urge, with the strongest possible language, a green vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the chief clerk will take the roll. So the speaker votes no to reconsider. Members, some fun news for the day. We neglected to give this bill its third reading. And so as a result, we will be backing out of this vote. The chief clerk will give it a third reading, and then we will resume the vote. That sounds like a great idea. The chief clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 3196.
Third reading. The best news is that the chief clerk told me that he had never let that happen before. So there's a first time for everything.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry. Who is the Speaker pro tem right now?
Oh. What a wonderful point of inquiry. Thank you for that, Representative Kraft.
Thank you.
Members, we now have a third reading. Is there any further discussion, Representative Kraft? Would you like to discuss this further? Seeing no further discussion, we have further discussion. The member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since it is customary to let the author of the bill speak last, I wasn't going to speak again. I did notice a couple members on the committee voted no in the practice round, so I'm hoping now in the real round we'll get all of them to a yes vote. Thank you.
Having reconsidered their votes, the chief clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote for real this time. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Hussein.
Hussein, aye.
Hussein votes aye. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 129 yeas and 4 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we've received a message from the Senate, so we'll revert to messages from the Senate.
A message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 908. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate bills.
First reading of Senate file number 908, an act relating to construction codes. Schultz moved that Senate file number 908 and House file number 47, now on the general register, be referred to the chief clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Announcements. I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Lee Kay.
Thank you, Speaker. So today, April 30th, 2025, marks 50 years since the fall of Saigon and the beginning of the end of official U.S. military involvement in Southeast Asia. This year also marks 50 years since resettlement of Southeast Asian families in Minnesota. So today, we read a House resolution expressing gratitude and solemn remembrance of the service, sacrifice, and bravery of Minnesotans, including United States veterans and Cambodian, Hmong, Lao, and Vietnamese Minnesotans involved in the Vietnam War on the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War in 1975.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Norris.
Whereas 97,000 Minnesotans served as members of the United States Armed Forces during the Vietnam War, and
I recognize the member from Waseca, Representative Sexton.
Whereas 58,220 American soldiers and over 313,000 Vietnamese, 50,000 Lao, 35,000 Hmong special warfare guerrilla soldiers lost their lives during the Vietnam War and the resulting conflicts in Southeast Asia. Whereas over 1,500,000 Cambodians lost their lives, including civilians during the Cambodian genocide perpetrated by the Khmer Rouge, and
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Herr.
Whereas Saigon, the capital of the Republic of Vietnam, fell to the North Vietnamese forces on April 30th, 1975, and whereas the Khmer Republic fell to the Khmer Rouge in April 1975, and whereas the Kingdom of Laos fell to the Pathet Lao forces on December 1975, and
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Vang.
Whereas each of the recognized groups share different backgrounds and distinct national realities, but each group members who willingly, bravely, and with full knowledge of the perils and risks entailed served with valor. Many of these survivors of the Southeast Asian conflict now call Minnesota home, and it is appropriate to honor all of them while we still can. And
I recognize the member from Moller, Representative Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whereas Minnesota first received Southeast Asian refugees in 1975, is now home to 10,101 Cambodian, 97,741 Hmong, 13,074 Lao, and 34,210 Vietnamese Minnesotans. And whereas 2025 is the end of the commemoration period established by President Barack Obama, President Donald Trump, and President Joseph Biden to commemorate this conflict and its legacy for all Americans. Now, therefore,
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Be it resolved by the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration of the House of Representatives of the State of Minnesota that it recognizes 2025 as the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, including the United States secret war in Laos, honors the service, bravery, and sacrifice of all Minnesotans who took part in the Vietnam War and Southeast Asian conflict, and thanks them for their contribution to the state of Minnesota.
Further announcements. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 a.m. Thursday, May 1st, 2025.
Representative Niska moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 o'clock a.m. Thursday, May 1st, 2025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. Representative Niska.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Niska moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. No. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Thursday, May 1st, 2025.